fixed my car yet?
It's kind of like work in progress.
Well, I need it back today. So if it's not done, I'll strap your ass to a donkey and send you to the gulag.
This is it. This is Monica's little baby, her Ford KA Plus. It has developed a little engine misfire. Now what I haven't told her is I have actually fixed it. Well, at least I think I fixed it. Let me just put my bag down and I'll come out to the car and show you. Alright then, this particular car is a 2018 Ford KA Plus Active 1.2 Ti VCT. It's a very quick engine. I've heard that they're very good engines. They're very nimble. They accelerate pretty rapidly. So for a 3-cylinder engine, they ain't bad. Now, let me point out here, this car has only done 21,000 miles from new. So you wouldn't really expect anything to go wrong with it. But here's what happened. Monica went to, it was somewhere near Hunstanton. You know Hunstanton on the east coast, that seaside resort that you would spend a few hours there then have to leave because you've seen it all. But anyway, on her way home, and it must have been a good 50-60 miles from Sheringham or wherever she was back to her home, within a few miles of her house the engine started misfiring, and because it's only a 3-cylinder engine, you can imagine it's like the engine's lost power and it's juddering quite badly because it's only running on 2 cylinders now. So she gets home and I pop round and have a look at it, and I start the car up and it appears to be running fine. So I rev it, and then when I rev it I get a misfire, but it's not like a misfire that's there permanently. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, it sounds like either a spark plug or ignition coil pack. I'm ruling out any engine damage. So we get the car back here to the garage and I put the scanner on it and I read the fault codes, and it says cylinder number 1, engine misfire. So I pull out, this is where it gets interesting, I pull out ignition coil pack number 1. Now I wasn't going to make a video on this because I was just trying to fix it at the time, but if you can see at the bottom there, you've got a load of rust. That rusty patch there was all up here, and it was noticeably wet, like there was water all up the bloody ignition coil tube there. And at that point I thought to myself, my instant reaction was, oh my god, because I'm thinking of Ford Focuses where underneath the rocker cover there's an engine core plug, like where the coolant runs through the cylinder head. There's a core plug that rots out and leaks, and then it goes all over the spark plugs and then causes a misfire. The only other alternative would be water running off the scuttle panel onto here, but we don't know. I mean, it seems a little bit strange how this has developed a misfire when she's been out all day. So I'm thinking, well, I need to take this rocker cover off. I don't know anything about these engines, so I took this rocker cover off just to make sure there's no coolant getting around that spark plug. And when I took the rocker cover off, obviously I found that that spark plug goes into a solid metal assembly where there's no coolant there whatsoever. There's no core plugs there either to leak onto the spark plug. So that ruled the engine coolant out, and she did mention that the actual coolant in the bottle has never dropped since she's had the car. So that was very good. that was kind of like, whew, because the last thing we wanted was engine coolant to be getting onto the spark plug. So I put the rocker cover back on. But by the way, while I'm here, I just want to point something out of interest. What I noticed with this rocker cover off, you've got 2 camshafts and all the little rockers that open and close your valves. They look very familiar. They looked like the kind of rockers you get in the taxis we've got, the Mondeo 2-litre diesels. So it says to me, if the timing belt, and I'll come to that in a minute, if that belt was to break, chances are it's going to snap them rockers in the middle, which means it will save the valves from getting bent. That's what I believe. And also, in here, this is actually a timing belt. You would think there'd be a chain in there, but it's not. It's a belt. because I had a look at it. It's a wet belt, it's a wet timing belt, and I was kind of like, I don't like that idea, but it is what it is. They say, I looked it up on auto data, they say it's a maximum of 150,000 miles before you change that belt. So, and strangely enough, it looks like exactly the same kind of setup as what all the earlier Z-Tech engines were. It's just a very simple setup, but now they've made it ever so complicated because you have to take all the timing casing off down the front and all this top cover, which isn't a 5-minute job. So they just make like simple engines so much more difficult to work on. But anyway, let's get back to the task in hand. I had a very wet ignition coil pack. So what I did was, I've cleaned it all up, but there's obviously still traces of what was down there getting on. I mean, I blew down the hole with a high pressure air line, and I thought to myself, I'm going to have to change the spark plug. In actual fact, the spark plug I took out is round here, because we got a brand spanking new spark plug. I ordered a new spark plug from Ford, and that is actually the part number for the spark plug. It was only like £4 something. But this is where it gets a little bit, my nerves were shot doing this. Not because it was just, well, to be honest with you, because the simple fact that because it was Monica's car, I didn't want to do any damage to this engine. I didn't want anything to go wrong. And it's a 16mm nut on that spark plug, and look how rusty it is where all the water's been on it. I put my spark plug socket onto this spark plug, and I tried to undo the spark plug. And do you know what, it turned, it moved just a little bit. It was tight, but it moved a little bit, then it went solid. And I was like, I'm not gonna try and force that anymore, because if I snap this spark plug, I'm screwed. If you remember, if any of you know about the old overhead valve engines where the spark plugs used to be at the front, if they got broken off, you could get a special tool that you could hammer into the spark plug and then undo them. But in one of these engines, the spark plug is right down inside the bloody cylinder head, sort of like you can see by the depth of that coil pack, the tube on it, how deep the spark plug is. So if you were to damage the spark plug, if you were to break the porcelain on the spark plug, or snap it off or anything like that, or strip the threads, I mean, it's going to be cylinder head off without a doubt. And so what I done was I poured a load of Freon oil, well, I squirted some Freon oil down here so it would seep into the threads, and left it overnight. And in the morning I tried it again. I tried to undo it, and it was only moving a very tiny, I got it to like moving about that much, then it would go solid. And do you know what, I left it a few more hours and put a bit more oil down there, and then eventually I got my socket on it and bar, and I just wriggled it about bit by bit, and then all of a sudden it just went. I wasn't putting that much pressure on it, so I know I hadn't broken nothing. It undone and it came out, and there it is. But anyway, that was very, very sort of like nerve-wracking taking that spark plug out, because the last thing I wanted to do was anything to go wrong there. I mean, if that had stripped the threads, I'd be like, I'd have to leave the country. Anyway, I got the spark plug out, put a brand new spark plug in. I've cleaned this out as best I can. Obviously I cleaned up this ignition coil pack, and that will go in there like that. But what I wanted to say is, I still haven't worked out how water has got down that hole. And if you look at this coil pack, where can we put it? You've got this great big boot right here that sits over the rocker cover to stop water getting in there, and you've also got like a seal inside. Let me get out of the light, it's so bright out here I can't really see what I'm doing. But yeah, you've got this boot here, and you've got a seal here which actually pushes, that bit where my thumb is, that pushes into the hole, and it's quite tight, so you wouldn't think rainwater would be able to get in there. But when I think about Z-Tech engines, Duratec HE engines, when water runs off the scuttle panel and drips down onto the rocker cover, when these engines have got plug leads in there, they're sort of like sealed as well, like these, but water still manages to get into where the spark plugs are. So I don't know, it's all a little bit of a mystery to me. So if anyone else out there might have an idea as to how water has got into that spark plug hole, I would love to know. But anyway, I shall fit that back in there. Just pops on, and then there's a one little 8mm screws on, and then there's one plug connector, and that's it. But yeah, what I think I'll do is I'll get Monica out here to explain this and see if she can shed any more light on this situation. Actually, talking to the devil, here she is. Hey Moni, I'm digging that hat.
I know, right? It's cool.
I'm kind of getting the feeling it's like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Apocalyptic theme going on here. Tell us a little bit about your funky hat.
Well, it was for steampunk themed wedding, believe it or not. So yeah, it was very cool. I'm very dressed.
I love it.
Yeah.
When there's no ozone layer left,
Yeah.
I'll borrow them goggles off you.
Fair enough, you can have them.
Anyway, back to reality. Your lovely little KA Plus, your little baby here.
Yeah.
Where had you been on the Sunday when this engine took a dump?
About 60 miles away from home. I was taking the dog to around Kings Lynn Way.
Okay, so you got back home, you were a few miles off home,
Yeah.
and the engine started to misfire.
Yeah, the engine management light came on and it started losing a power originally.
What went through your mind when that happened?
Please make it home! I didn't know what's happening to it, to be fair.
I'm saying that because it's like 21,000 miles. The car's still not even running really, and you wouldn't expect nothing like that to go wrong with a car like this.
No.
So you've got home, I've had a look at it, I've kind of thought to myself, I'm probably thinking it's a coil pack or a spark plug. You get it down here, I've had a look at it, we find that there's water in number 1 spark plug hole. Now, as far as I am aware, we have only seen one day of rain, which was over a week ago, which was probably 3 or 4 days before you even went for your journey.
Yeah.
So that says to me, I don't think it's rainwater that's got down that spark plug hole. Is there any kind of reasoning how you can think that water would have got down that spark plug hole? Because I'm a bit bewildered here.
Well, the day before I had it cleaned and they were using a pressure washer. And I think they always pressure wash around here. So maybe they forced the water and it somehow leaked into it.
Talking of pressure washers,
Yeah.
there's the pressure washer on its go.
Yeah.
But yeah, now you've actually said that.
Because there is a... I'm not sure, maybe it leaked through there. There's a hole.
Well, if anybody knows, pressure washers are not very good if you get too close to them, and you shouldn't be pressure washing a scuttle panel because the amount of water is rainwater will run onto here and just run out down the channels, but when you use a pressure washer you're forcing volumes of water onto here, and that could have that actually makes sense. That could have pissed onto here. It still doesn't answer the question how the water's got past the boot on the coil pack, but I know that water can get past these things. So I'm kind of imagining that rainwater is, well, not rainwater, the pressure washer water has got over this scuttle panel now and onto here and got past that boot and down the plug hole. And obviously it's taken a day or so of running, and obviously once the engine heats up the water's going to start condensating.
Yeah.
And obviously it's caused a misfire. So what we're going to do, we're going to keep an eye on this. In fact, the next time it rains, I shall lift this bonnet and I shall check down there to see if there's any water. I don't think I'm going to see any, to be honest with you, but I think that your theory of the pressure washer done it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these people who operate pressure washers, they get them too close and they put far too much water on cars where they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I try to avoid pressure washers. You should wash your car the conventional way.
Yeah, I
Hand
think I will
wash.
from now on. It's an expensive car wash.
Well, it's all fixed now, it's all up and running. It's running absolutely perfectly fine, so hopefully it'll stay like that. But if anything else materialises, we'll let you know. I don't think it's going to. I think this was a one-off now. So fingers crossed. Well, thank you for that, Moni.
You're welcome.
Love the hat.
Thanks.
I guess that's the end of the video for today.
Thank you for fixing my car.
I'm just actually glad it's nothing serious, because
Well,
I don't fancy taking one of them engines apart.
no, I don't want it to be taken apart either.
Right, do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
You've got to say see ya.
See ya.
Cheers. You've got to put your foot on the clutch to start these engines. Lovely. Now I'll rev it. No misfire. There we go. In actual fact, you notice on these 3-cylinder engines, they're always a little bit shaky like that. But it seems it's running very nice and quietly. So I hope it stays like that. Well, my advice, if you own a KA Plus or any car, come to think of it, beware of pressure washers. See ya.